Hello and welcome to another painting time-lapse video. My name's Valentina and today I will be narrating over the painting process for my latest square lens painting titled Packs. If you haven't yet seen the final version of this painting, you can either check it out on my social media profiles, or Twitter or Instagram, or download it off my GUMROAD. So, Pax in Latin means peace, and that's precisely what I had in mind before I started this painting. I wanted to paint a peaceful, snowy scene and try to make it a high-key painting if I could. As always, I tried to have some sort of an idea in mind before starting any painting, because that way I, at the very least, will know which direction I'll be heading into, even if I change the painting halfway through the process. Now, starting a new painting can be a very challenging and daunting task. Trust me, I know it. But it doesn't all have to be an impossible one. Sometimes the smallest idea is enough to get you and your mind started. It can be as simple as, I want to paint a snowy landscape, which is what I did here. Or it can be you being inspired by a place you've been to, or a painting, or even a photo that you saw, a story you've read, a song you've heard. Honestly, there are many ways of being inspired. Don't limit yourself to just one way. Let yourself be inspired, but literally and virtually everything and anything. But anyway, this was also the case for me here. There was a photo of some really gorgeous looking pine trees that I came across, and they had such an interesting shape to them that I felt like I just had to try to recreate it somehow. And that's quite often the case with me, actually, especially for these square lens paintings. I often get inspired by a photo or a video clip, and I just take that inspiration and make my own rendition of it. I actually talk more in depth about this in my other narrated tutorials, all of which are available on my GUMROAD, so be sure to check them out if you're interested. So anyway, with all of those things in mind, I created a very quick and messy sketch that you saw at the very beginning of the video, just so that I can mess around with the placement and the composition of various elements without having to paint and repaint everything. I'm honestly not the one to have a sketch ready before painting, but I've really been trying to do it much more often lately, as it's definitely helped me see if the composition that I have in my mind will work out. And sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. That's what painting is. It's just taking your time and just putting down one brush stroke after another until something beautiful emerges on your canvas. So, moving on. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know by now that I almost always start off my painting by using the lasso tool to establish the big overall shapes. You can think of it like cutting out large shapes of color paper before adding any detail to it. This time, however, it's a little bit different. Honestly, just delayed, as I wanted to establish the very distant background first and foremost to help me understand exactly what value scheme I'll be working with here. So I just quickly blocked that in with a few brushes. The lasso tool comes in right after, when I start to add in those middle ground and foreground trees in that entire snowy field. By establishing the distant trees, I was able to deduce which color and value and even the level of detail that I should be using for the trees that are closer to us on the canvas. So my method is quite simple. Like, I know I'll be painting in the branches and the leaves myself, I actually had a few texture brushes in mind that I wanted to use, perhaps even a combination of them, but having a nice tree trunk, as silly as that sounds, with some interesting edges and shape for me to get started is exactly what I need. The really nice thing about using the lasso tool and why I like it so much is that it helps you create the base shape that not only does it give you a very crispy edge to work with, that method also allows you to lock that layer's transparency, which means you can paint in and out of that one shape without having to worry about messing up your edges. Don't worry, if necessary, you can always unlock the transparency and fix the edges as you go. Of course, you can paint in the shapes yourself. There's absolutely no right or wrong way of doing it. I honestly just like using the lasso tool. It just feels a little faster and creates a more organic edge line for me. I definitely encourage every single one of you to try out some of these various techniques and see if it sparks a new idea or two for you. So, painting the trees by adding in the leaves and the branches is its own technical method. It's usually unique to each and every artist, but honestly, the best way I describe mine is I just follow the reference photo the best way I know how. In my case, I know which of my brushes will create what effect. And I know that if I combine some effects on top of another, I technically should get something similar to what the reference looked like. Obviously, this method is definitely not foolproof. There's hundreds of ways of painting trees and foliage, but definitely, like everything else, try out, experiment, and find the method that's good for you. In fact, you can see it happening on the screen right now. I'm trying out lots of different texture brushes that I have, just layering them one on top of the other till I get the effect that I want. So obviously, the trees and the foliage, definitely not perfect, and I don't expect them to be. I love the painterly and dreamy feel of certain brushstrokes, and I really wanted to retain that as much as possible without losing it in the rendering process. Here's the thing. Sometimes certain painting methods and techniques will create certain effects that invoke very particular emotions. So, for example, a very soft edge can be very wispy and dreamy, whereas a harder edge can be more important, clear, or aggressive. So, definitely try out all different types and experiment with those and experiment with different techniques and see what works best for you. That way, you can learn what effect creates a particular emotion for you so that you can use it in your paintings later. So in my case here, the more loose and free the brushstroke is, the more dreamy and airy the painting felt. Honestly, of course, I won't be getting away with just blobs on the canvas, right? But I am trying to strike that fine balance between having something detailed just enough for you to know what's going on, while at the same time leaving plenty of breathing room for your own mind to fill in the rest. I personally find that to be one of the most exciting parts of looking at other people's paintings. And of course, with that in mind, I also love hearing how their mind fills in the blanks in my paintings. It's always fascinating and so interesting to hear all the different things people see in the exact same painting. So, anyway, the rendering process of everything else, all the other elements, is pretty much the same. Since now I have a color scheme and a value scheme pretty much established, I know exactly what I should be using for everything else. And of course, having that sketch layer really helped me remember where everything should be placed. A quick note, if you ever see my painting suddenly turn gray, this video or any other video, just know that it's because I'm using a shortcut command to check my values. So by looking at something that is in grayscale, I can judge my value scheme and my value groupings a lot quicker and a lot more accurately. So in case I need to fix something, I know exactly what needs to be fixed. So we're nearing the end here with some last minute touches where I'm adding in some atmospheric effects, some clouds and mist, a little bit of white glow in the sky, and that's pretty much it. I probably could have spent longer on this painting, but that would have defeated the purpose, I think. Sometimes simplicity is all you need. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this little narrated video was interesting to you and that you got something out of it. If it sparked an idea or two for you, of course, thank you for your support and encouragement as always. And if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I always enjoy creating these videos for every single one of you, and I hope that you get just as much joy out of watching them. Definitely remember to check out the GUMROAD for this pack. Not only will it contain this video, so you can watch it on the go, but also some digital goodies like wallpapers and some high-res versions of the final painting. I really hope you enjoy. So, as always, I'm wishing every one of you the absolute very best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.